Hello and welcome to Blank Plate, a podcast for Swifties with an appetite.
I'm Sarah, and I used to be a little kid with glasses in a twin-size bed.
I'm Lara, and I'm a mess, but I'm the mess that you wanted.
And we've got a blank plate, baby, and we'll write your name. Welcome back.
Season 3. Oh my gosh.
We've got a fun one today because we're talking about one of our collective favorite albums, which is Reputation. So,
and okay, little Rep 101. If you are a new Swiftie, we're going to tell you everything you need to know about the Reputation lore because it is probably the album, in my opinion, with the most lore. So,
yeah.
Its conception, its critical review, all of it, all the drama, all the tea, we will unpack in this episode.
Yeah. Very excited. We have a lot to discuss, as per usual.
Yes.
But,
yes,
you know, for us, it's only been a week since we recorded, but what's new? Anything?
Honestly, I feel like such a loser. I really don't have anything crazy going on. Like, literally, same old, same old. I've had a ton of musical rehearsals. Snow is ruining my plans this past weekend. We had sort of like an icy night. And then like, it was supposed to be one thing. It turned into another, just like ruined all the plans. But like, honestly, who doesn't love an excuse to stay home?
Right.
So no complaints. It's the February vibe, you know, just like curl up at home, and it's supposed to snow tonight. So who knows?
Is it?
Down here it is. Yeah, down here we're supposed to get like 2-3 inches. So we might have a delay tomorrow. I don't think we're going to be off, but we'll probably have a delay tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have much else going on either. Like, I'm definitely in hibernation mode. It's like I work at home. I occasionally leave to go to the gym. But like, even still, like, I work out at home. Like this morning, I worked out at home. So I'm not leaving the house.
Yeah.
But the one thing I did want to share with the listeners is I have a new person that I'm listening to.
Yay.
Her name is Leve. So like, it looks like it's spelled Laufey or Laufey, because it's Laufey, but she's Icelandic and apparently it's pronounced Leve. And this is someone like I've seen her name, I've heard of her, but like hadn't like dove in yet. And I kind of knew like I'm gonna like this person, but like sometimes you just need the right moment to get into someone. And that moment for me was this week. So she's actually a jazz artist.
She's amazing.
A popular contemporary jazz artist. And she's young, right? She's probably in her early 20s or something.
Yeah, she's younger than us.
Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah, and so she lists Ella Fitzgerald as a huge inspiration. And like, I love all of that older stuff, like Ella Fitzgerald, Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, like that kind of stuff. I absolutely love.
Yeah.
So basically she sounds like that, but she's a new artist. And like, if you love that sound, it's really cool to listen to her because it's that sound, but with like contemporary lyrics, which is cool.
Yeah.
But she also cited Taylor Swift, Norah Jones, and Adele as like inspiration for her. And she is quoted as saying, Taylor Swift has done for pop and country what I hope to do for jazz. She has managed to unite people across the world, which is one of my main goals as a musician. And last year, her album Bewitched won the Grammy for Best Traditional Pop Vocal Album. But this week, I was like listening to that, but I actually kind of like looked her up because I saw for Record Store Day in April, she has a vinyl coming out of her live album called Night at the Symphony, which is her live at the Hollywood Bowl with the LA Philharmonic Orchestra. And that album is on streaming, and I'm like obsessed with it this week. That's like all I'm listening to. So I'm super into it, and it's like a very different vibe. It actually reminds me of, like when Billie Eilish sings in her kind of like sultry, jazzy voice.
Yeah,
She
her
kind
lover
of
register.
sounds like that, but all the time. So if you like it when Billie sounds like that, I think you would be into her.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Leve, because my students introduced her to me last year,
Okay.
and they were a bunch of altos. And like,
Hmm.
if you're an alto or if you sing alto, you know that like altos don't get their shine.
Hmm.
And she has this amazing tone quality to her voice, and her music is set in sort of an alto-y range.
Yeah.
And they like it's so hard for middle school altos to find a good song that's like appropriate for them to sing for like a field trip. And all of a sudden these
Hmm.
girls were singing these amazing songs, and I was like, who is this? And they were like, "Oh, it's Leve. Like she's awesome. You should check her out." And I was like,
Uh-huh.
I am a big fan because all of these songs were not only like beautiful, but like
Hmm.
appropriate for them to sing. And they all really started to get into jazz because of her. So like she's
That's
like a
cool.
soft launch into the classics for a lot of these kids.
Okay.
So yeah, she's definitely made jazz approachable for a lot of girls, which I love.
Yeah. That's
Um
really awesome.
she's also like super smart.
Hmm.
And yeah, she's really really cool. And like I haven't listened to Night at the Symphony, but I'll have to because I actually saw that
Hmm.
she had a it might have been this LA Philharmonic Orchestra she
Hmm.
had recently at Penn Cinema. Penn Cinema is our local movie theater, where they do like live concerts sometimes, like aired as like a
Oh.
movie premiere. And
Oh,
she
okay.
had something like this where she did a performance with some orchestra. I'm assuming it
It
might
was
be
probably
this.
this.
She
Yeah.
might have like a special. I don't know.
Yeah. I saw comments somewhere about like the movie of it. And someone was like, I can't wait for everyone to see the movie.
Yeah.
So I'm sure it's going to be coming to, I
Yeah,
don't know, maybe
that's got to be
streaming or
it.
something. Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah. Oh
Well,
boy.
in
Okay.
Taylor news and updates, we did
Yeah,
have a Super Bowl party that we went to. So that is one thing that you and I did that was out of the norm this week, which was fun.
right. That's why we feel like we have nothing to update each other on.
Right.
It's
Yeah, we
like
did see each other
it's
a
like
couple days
Sarah and
ago.
I watching it's us watching the Super Bowl commercials, Sarah asking, "Is that Matt Damon?" For every celebrity that pops up, and then us arguing about Kendrick Lamar at the Super Bowl halftime show. Uh
Yeah.
just,
Um,
classic stuff.
yeah, which I will say I have been loving the like breakdowns of his performance online because I
Yeah.
am truly like not familiar with his music. So like it was like kind of hard to take in. And I also find him a
Mhm.
little difficult to understand when he's rapping. Um, like not knowing the words already. So
Yeah.
yeah, and I think like it really was like symbolic in an interesting way that is easy to like go over your head when you're just like watching in a group of people and like having a conversation while it's on and stuff. Um but yeah, I do think he did like a really cool job and I liked it and I've enjoyed learning more about
Yeah.
his music like in the aftermath.
Yeah. Kendrick is very smart. And I mean, he's a Pulitzer Prize winning rapper,
Mhm.
and he's intentional, he's detail oriented. So like I kind of suspected when it started that there were going to be a lot of like TikToks doing a lot of those Swiftian like unpacking of the Easter eggs, and I'm excited that so many people are sharing them because like so many things that I didn't catch. And I don't know,
Mhm.
listen, I don't know all of Kendrick's music, but my students love him. So I feel like I have to know some of them. Of course, I
Mhm.
was familiar with Not Like Us and the whole beef, but like,
Yeah. Mhm.
his earlier stuff, Jake, my brother-in-law, had sent to me. And like, I've followed him loosely for a while. Obviously, we know Kendrick is also like a Swiftie. He was in
Yeah.
Bad Blood.
He's
So
part of the
like,
fam. We love him for that.
yeah, we do. And like, I'm so happy that he's getting all this attention. And I think that anyone who was, I'm sorry, every year without fail, people who have no opinion about music have the strongest opinion about the Super Bowl halftime performance. And I'm like, dude,
It's so true.
Everyone comes out like they're the biggest critic. I'm like, you guys, can we please calm down? Like every year.
Yeah.
Every year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Also, the game itself,
anyway,
not nearly as exciting as last year's game, which went into overtime. Poor Chiefs,
exciting
but go Birds.
if you're an Eagles fan. That's all I have to say.
I mean, it
go
was
Birds,
exciting.
baby. Go Birds.
It was exciting in the sense that, like, it was like, how are the Eagles crushing them this hard? Like, this is crazy. And you were officially rooting for the Eagles.
Yeah. Have to.
Okay. Well, yeah. And I will say that I was like technically rooting for Travis and Taylor, but it was a win-win for me because go Birds. I'm from like Philly, PA.
Right.
So I got to win either way, you know?
Yeah.
So
it was,
what were you gonna say?
Really was, I don't care. I just want to have fun.
Right.
No, like, I'm sure you've seen the pictures of Travis leaving the locker room with his bedazzled shirt and pants, like sulking off, and how sad, like it honestly made his whole getup like so depressing to see because you could tell how disappointed he was in the game. And I was like, we've only known Travis as a winner. Like we've only like Taylor's been there for the highs. She's going to be there for the lows. But like this was a big low.
It was the worst game they played all season. And it looked that way.
Yeah, and it was.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
So speaking of Super Bowl for our girly, she wore white, which was an interesting choice because she's we know she's from Philly. When at our show, Philly Night 1, she said that she is an Eagles fan. The Eagles t-shirt referred to in Gold Rush is the Eagles football team. Her dad is a big Eagles fan. So like she can't turn her back entirely on the fandom, right? A lot of people are like, oh my God, like this is her in her bridal era. I'm like, no, this is because she's a neutral party.
I saw a thing that I think the WAGs as a group, like the wives and girlfriends, I think they as a group were wearing white. That because were the Chiefs wearing white? Were they wearing white? I think it was like because they were technically like the home team or something. So it might have just been that too. But it was interesting. But wasn't she also wearing like denim shorts and a white top, which is like kind of what she wore the very first game that she went to? So she was kind of repeating that.
Yeah. Yeah, like the tank and the shorts was a repeat look, just different items. But she also wore her garter tee around her neck. Yeah. And someone on TikTok shared a video where they were like, someone get rid of that necklace. It is cursed because she won no Grammys wearing it. And the Super Bowl was a loss. And she was wearing it. Yikes. But you know what I thought? I was like, this is a Rep TV Easter egg. I want to wear his initial on a chain around my neck. Okay.
Okay.
Just saying.
That's a good catch.
Yep.
Yeah. She was there with Ice Spice and her like bestie / designer or stylist, Ashley Avignon, and the Haim sisters, which is like very Midnight's coded to have Ice Spice and the Haim sisters. Because the Haim sisters are in the video for Bejeweled, and then Ice Spice is obviously on the Karma remix and in the music video.
Yeah.
So that's kind of random.
No Blake Lively.
No, I'm sure Blake was watching from home.
Yeah.
Not surprised.
And I mean, again, not only was it a bad night for Travis, but like Taylor got booed, which like her side-eyeing the crowd was the funniest thing I've ever seen in the entire world. And it once again reminds me that when Travis was shown by the fans being there in support for Taylor Swift. We're all cheering and applauding and excited and happy.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, on a male-dominated field, as soon as the girlfriend is there being supportive, she gets booed.
Right. It's
what's
lame.
wrong with this picture? It's giving loser energy.
Yeah.
Losers.
Yeah. I don't know what's wrong with people. But Taylor didn't seem very bothered by it. She's used to this crap by now.
No.
She's like, shake it off. Shake it off.
She's like, I don't care, honey. I got my man and I got my $1 billion. Right. So
exactly.
I'm fine. Also, like, I once again want to say that, like, if anyone is like, oh my God, poor Taylor, how is she going to survive this? I feel like there's a lot of like new Swifties who are like, people have really turned on her quickly ever since everyone was loving her at the Grammy night, how she was celebrating everybody. And now she gets booed. I'm like, okay, us Swifties know this is nothing.
Yeah.
She does not care. Like, our girl has been through way worse than this, and she will bounce back just fine. So,
yeah. Let's get into it.
Big reputation. Big reputation. Ooh, you and me, we got a big conversation. Ah.
Yeah.
We're here.
All right. So, Reputation, one of our favorite albums. We're going to get into all of it today. So, we're doing this episode kind of like in advance of assuming that Rep TV is coming out imminently.
Yeah.
So we want to do like a little refresher on the album, all the background behind it, because there is like a lot of history involved in this album. So especially for newer
and
Swifties.
To fully appreciate this album, you have to know all the history and the lore. And that's what we're going to give to you today.
Right. So Reputation was originally released on November 10th of 2017, and it was her last release with Big Machine Records. So it was the last album that came out before she started owning all of her albums with the new record label.
Yeah, so her producers were Jack Antonoff, Max Martin, and Shellback, which is our classic three from 1989. Jack obviously was a continual, like, you know, they were a pair. There's so many behind the scenes clips of the two of them writing and producing and creating together for Reputation. But Max Martin and Shellback were also a part of this album's creation. And this is unconfirmed, but apparently Jack was like so serious about making sure that nothing was going to be leaked to anyone that he actually would keep a studio computer offline. And this way, no one could see or hear anything. It was like this basically dead computer that had no access to the outside world, but that's where the files were stored from all the mixing and mastering until it was finalized and ready for publishing. So Reputation came as a huge surprise for a lot of people because of this. They didn't really know that she was creating it. It was very hush-hush, top secret. So when she dropped it, a lot of people were like, oh, this is a thing? Yeah, because she also was off track for her release schedule. Previously, Taylor was always releasing albums every 2 years. But that was thwarted after she disappeared, and we'll talk about why later. So the timeline was off. It was top secret, and yeah, it was a big surprise.
So then the features on this album include Ed Sheeran and Future, which are both on Endgame. So that's the only song with a feature. And then the singles and music videos were Look What You Made Me Do, which was released on August 24th of 2017. Shocked all of us because it was like, what the heck is this?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
I would say that single release, like, I don't think it's the strongest song at all, but it for sure like set the tone for the album
Mm-hmm.
that was coming and was a real signal that it's like,
Oh, yeah.
this album is not what you're used to hearing from me, which is cool. Like, it's pretty badass.
Yeah.
Everyone's like,
Yeah.
what is she doing?
I mean, she literally says the old Taylor can't come to the phone right now because she's dead.
Yeah.
Like,
I
you're like,
mean,
what?
that's like, that was a real moment in history when she released that song.
Oh, yeah.
And then in September, she released Ready for It as the next single. Then we got Endgame in November with Ed Sheeran and Future. And then she released New Year's Day, which I think that might have been after she performed it on Jimmy Fallon. Which
Yeah.
was like when she performed it after his mom died.
Mm-hmm.
Which was also kind of crazy because she has the line in there about like squeezing your hand 3 times in the back of the taxi to say like, I love you. And
Yeah.
he didn't even know that, but he had told a story about how his mom used to squeeze his hand 3 times. So then when Taylor sang this and he like
Mm-hmm.
was just sitting at his desk, like crying, like losing it. So that's like an interesting thing that happened. And then we got Delicate released in March of 2018 and Getaway Car released in September of 2018, which is almost like a year later. I didn't realize that those last 3 were released as singles technically. So that's interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting that like this album had a full year's worth of music videos and singles released. Like, to me, that feels like a long time. I don't know if it just feels different now because like she doesn't release that many music videos and singles like that. I don't know. And we live in a time where like clips from different songs get viral on social media, but like, doesn't a year feel like a long time to be focused on one album and like releasing multiple music videos? I don't know. It seems kind of strange. Anyway.
Should we just dive into the critical reception section?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So when this album was released, the critics were like super divided on it. And I would say overall, the reception was like pretty negative overall. Like it wasn't nominated for any Grammys or anything, which was very upsetting to Taylor. But with time, the general reception of this album has really improved, which I feel like is proof that she was like really pushing the envelope with this album into like a new direction for her, kind of like she did with 1989. Like she really did kind of pivot again, and she pivoted so much that people were like, what are you doing?
Yeah, like we weren't ready.
People were not ready. I was ready for it, but other people were not.
Yeah.
There was also like a little bit of controversy because some people found her adoption of more like Black music styles to be cultural appropriation, whereas others viewed it more as like a welcome sign of Taylor embracing modern pop music trends. And I would say
interesting.
Wikipedia describes it as an electro pop and R&B album with elements of urban styles such as hip hop, trap, and EDM. But like,
I don't get any of that.
I see the R&B a little bit.
Electro pop R&B a little bit. Everything else, no. This is not an EDM record. This is not trap, and this is not hip hop.
Well, I think people just like felt that way because she kind of like raps in some of the songs. I guess is it mainly just like Endgame and Ready for It. Yeah. So
but
can kind of see
Taylor's
that.
always had that sort of like speak singing thing in her music. Like that's not new.
Right.
I don't know. I highly disagree with that. But anyway.
So this is great. One negative review by Jeff Nelson of Consequence gave the album a D+ rating and called it a bloating, moving disaster. But then in 2022, that same publication declared their initial review was influenced by Swift's negative press and its score should have been higher. People are
Well,
backtracking.
there you go. There it is.
Yeah.
There it is. There it is.
In 2024, Ann Powers of NPR described Reputation as an album once scorned, now revered, which I think is very true.
Yeah, I think that's true too.
Yeah. Joe Lynch of Billboard attributed the initial criticism to the general preconception disregarding lyrics and synthesizer-based arrangements. Quote, which is a shame because on Reputation, Swift's words deliver vivid Polaroid shots directly to your brain, which I feel like every Taylor Swift song does that. Like, that's one of the things that makes her so good. We know.
Yeah. We know.
And then also in 2024, John Karamonica of the New York Times ranked Reputation as her number one album. But he was also one of the few who gave it a raving review when it was released. So he has always been a Rep stan.
He was an early fan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, early fan.
Yeah.
All of us, okay, so talking about our personal associations, this was interesting because, I was not a Swiftie when Reputation came out. So I didn't know any of the critical reception. I was not listening to it. I was not aware of what was going on. I was in my own little world listening to my own music. But, my personal association is that, how can you not love this album? I think that initially when rehashing all of this, I'm a late stage Swiftie. But when listening to Taylor's music after becoming a fan, I didn't get this album initially. I was like, okay, I understand she's crossing another sort of sound. And I like this sort of badass clapback villain arc sort of vibe of the whole album. But I didn't get it until I really unpacked what was happening with Taylor during this time. So I feel like the creation and the backstory to the whole album is what makes it even 10 times better to me. And knowing that, how can you not love this album? This album is amazing. It has so many bops on it.
Yeah.
I think it's a classic Swiftie thing that when you're out with your friends or you're hanging out late, you have to put on Reputation Stadium Tour on with your friends. That's just rite of passage. You're gonna watch it and I think that this album, there's a reason why people are this is probably, in my opinion, the album that maybe besides 1989 that most Swifties are excited for the re-records because it was such a secretive time, so you can only imagine what the vault songs are about.
Yeah.
And it just has Swifties in a chokehold. We love this album.
Right.
People go crazy during the Eras Tour set. It is insane.
So good. I also feel like the same way 1989 was such an incredible album. And then somehow with the Taylor's version, she made it even better. Any song that seemed to have a little bit of a weak moment, I feel like she fixed it in the Taylor's version. So it's Reputation, I feel, is going to be similar where it's already so good and tightly done that I can only imagine what the production is going to be like on the Taylor's version when she hones it in and is oh, I want this part to be bigger than what we initially did,
Yeah.
Oh, it's going to be so good.
I think she knows what to lean into too. She knows what the fans like. She's highly in tune with what we're all about.
Yeah. Well, my personal relationship with this album is that I was obsessed with this album. I could not stop listening to it when it came out. I have always loved it. It has always been a favorite for me. I remember our friend Dave was also obsessed with it at the time. Dave was my original Swiftie friend. Before anyone else, it was me and Dave. And I remember me and him texting about this album shortly after it came out and basically being like, are we okay? Because we could not stop listening to it. And it was kind of like when I like had gone, well, wait, no, it was the Red album that like really got me in. And I like listened to it just on repeat for an entire day. And I was like, this is not normal behavior. At least for me at the time, it wasn't. And so then when this one came out, like more so than 1989, like I could not stop listening. I think for me, it felt like a full and like unapologetic display of female rage in 2017, which was exactly what I needed because it was like the first year of Trump's first presidency, which was giving me a lot of feelings and anxiety and rage. It was also like the Me Too era. So to have this pop star singing these songs where she was just letting her anger come out, I was just obsessed. I loved it. It's so danceable. Like I have a core memory of listening to it with headphones while being in my kitchen and just dancing along to all of it and being like, this album is just so danceable. But also my other like memory with this album is arguing with you about it at that bar in Lancaster. We were like at the Horse Inn and we were arguing about this album.
Yeah.
Not that you were like anti the album, but I just felt like you weren't getting it. I was like, you don't get it, Laura. I don't know.
No, I didn't get it.
You didn't get it. And that's why
I didn't get it.
I love how much
I didn't get it.
I love how much you love Reputation now because that's where it all began, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, so good.
Yeah. I think like I still stand by. I remember arguing about how like at the time Taylor definitely did have some problematic choices that she made. Most of which was that she would remain silent on political situations to me at the time. But also like I have a totally different opinion about that now. And I understand why a little bit more, but it's just like of the time, like I really was not cool with like silence. But anyway, moving on. I do remember arguing with you at a bar and I just didn't get it. Like I didn't get it.
Right.
Now I get it.
It's fine. You get it now.
Yeah. And like I said, the understanding the story and like the folklore of its creation is really what makes this album what it is. So like, let's get into it. This is the full unpacking of how Reputation came to be, at least from what we know. So, I think it's important before we talk about Reputation to talk about the previous album, which was 1989. And Taylor was in the like pinnacle of her career during this time. I mean, she was loved. She was the pop star. She had made history as becoming the first woman to win Album of the Year twice in a row for her solo recordings. And she got 10 Grammy nominations, with 3 nods to Shake It Off, 3 wins, including Album of the Year, Best Pop Vocal Album, Best Music Video for Bad Blood. Like, she was number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100. Spent an entire year on the top 10. She literally like was making records left and right. She was on top of everything. And what's crazy is that like Reputation was not the plan after 1989.
Right.
Like Reputation came from a situation we're about to unpack. So what you have to remember is like when 1989 is being released, Taylor is still writing. She is working on the next project. So a lot of people, this is where our karma truthers come in, okay? Because the idea is that post 1989, Taylor starts her next project, which she then had to abandon after the Kanye of it all, which we'll talk about. And then this album would have been released in 2016, which follows her 2-year album drop schedule that she previously had. She was dating Calvin Harris during this time, who was an electronic, like EDM pop producer, creator. And he had written This Is What You Came For with her under a pseudonym of Nils Sojberg. I don't know how to say that. I'm sorry.
Dude, I don't know.
Yeah, and apparently the backing vocals are also Taylor. They're uncredited, but she's also in the song.
I hope she does This Is What You Came For as a vault track Taylor's version. Like she did
I hope
like
so.
Better Man and Babe for Red.
Yeah.
That would be amazing.
I don't know though. I don't think Calvin and her are on good terms, so I don't know how that's going to work out. Either way.
True.
She also changed her look, which we know that Taylor changes her vibe based off of the album. She cut and like chopped her hair into a bleach blonde bob, also known as bleachella.
Bleachella.
Okay. Bleachella, which like people have strong opinions about, but like I think the look is kind of a slay.
I mean,
I'm into it.
It's a strong look. I wish we could have seen more of it and like what it was supposed to become, you know?
Yeah, like what was it all about, you know? We got a little bit, but not enough.
Right.
So there's this idea that this album, we've called it Karma.
Wait, Laura, I just thought of something.
What?
If Taylor does release this lost album Karma that we think exists, right? What if she bleaches? Like, imagine one day we see Taylor bleach bob out in the world. Can you imagine the frenzy that would create? Now I really want that to happen.
Bleachella.
Like it would be
a chain.
It would have to be after like Rep and debut TV are out.
Yeah.
I feel like it would have to be.
Maybe.
But like
maybe.
Can you imagine?
No, I can't. I can't.
Anyway.
I can't.
Continue.
Anyway. There's a ton of other things. Yeah. So like in the Look What You Made Me Do music video, she has hidden a ton of Easter eggs about this lost album that the Swifties have picked up. Some of which include the fact that there is a version of her wearing orange, swinging on a swing inside of a locked bird cage. Okay? Meaning a version of her that was locked away in some sort of vault or cage, right? Which made me think of this little Easter egg from Guilty as Sin.
I keep these longings locked in lowercase inside a vault.
So is the Karma time also the overlap of Maddie Healy? Because we know Guilty as Sin is about Maddie Healy. And we know that she was spotted with her Tris and Maddie Healy time during the 1989 tour.
Right.
After the album was out. That is the same time as Karma was being made. So
yeah. If there's like a whole album in the vault that probably has more Maddie Healy content, it's like the lost chapters of the Maddie Healy story.
Yes. And that's why the whole Maddie Healy of it all was such a surprise for a lot of people, because there wasn't any music that insinuated anything really with Maddie Healy that we knew of at the time.
Right.
We didn't even know he was like really a character in the Taylor story because the chapter was ripped away out of our hands. Okay?
Exactly.
So she's locked away those longings in lowercase, which by the way, I'll remind you, what's in lowercase?
Reputation. The album title.
Yeah. So anyway, there's also a plane in the Look What You Made Me Do music video with the letters TS6, which later gets spray painted over with the word reputation. And it's on a plane that never took off.
Yeah. Well, because she cuts the wing off of it, right?
Yeah.
So it can't take off.
It's a grounded flight.
This is why I'm like, if you're not a karma truther, are you not paying attention? Also, like,
You're not.
I'm sorry, but like all this Kanye stuff happened in 2016, which is when the next album would have been coming out. So it's like, you're telling me she wasn't working on an album in those 2 years between 2014 when 1989 came out and 2016 when all this Kanye stuff happened? Hello, have you met this woman?
Listen, if we know anything about, yeah, exactly. If you know Taylor at all, she's not putting that pen down, honey.
Right.
Okay. She's been writing.
Yeah, always.
Oh, and then other Easter eggs. She keeps insinuating karma too, because number one, in the Man music video, Karma appears on the Man wall in graffiti.
Yeah.
In orange and in black. Anyway.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, when she announced Karma as a song on the Midnight's Madness with Me, she giggled her little tushy off. Yeah. She knew exactly what was happening. She knows.
Yeah.
She knows.
Yeah. And then there's also the theory, like, if we ever get the Karma album, there's a theory that, like, all the things she says, like, Karma is a cat, Karma is, you know, my boyfriend, like, all these things are maybe describing, like, tracks on the album, like, things that she talks about. You know?
I would love a track about Olivia.
Right? We need a cat song.
Write about your cats. Write about your cats.
Yeah.
And then finally, my favorite quote that Taylor's ever said for Vogue magazine, where they were like, what's something you want everyone to know? Karma is real. Girl.
Yeah. Also, we don't think the album will be called Karma. We just think that Karma is like the way that I guess like Woodvale was like allegedly the like code name for Folklore, because she usually picks a name that's not the real album name, that's like the same number of letters, like same syllables or whatever, to use as like a code name for it in the production process. So we think Karma is the code name for whatever that album was. Yeah. But it would be badass if she just called it Karma.
I know. I was like, but why not just call it that?
Right.
Why not? We all know. Also, like, there were some people guessing that lightning, like, because there was a picture of her during the Bleachella days with like wearing a bomber jacket, like a satin bomber jacket with a lightning bolt in the back. So like some people were guessing it was called Lightning.
Okay.
Lightning, Karma.
Also, wasn't there stuff with like palm trees, like, and then with like the whole Bleachella look, like people were thinking it might have like a real like LA, California vibe to it, which in 1989 was like New York City. So that would kind of make sense. Know.
But then in Taylor's version, she made 1989 super beachy. So like, is that the vibe?
I don't know.
Which we have our thoughts about that. Anyway, what do we think the sound for Karma was going to be? Was it rock? Was it electro pop? Because she was dating Calvin Harris, and like, This Is What You Came For is very like electro EDM sort of poppy sound, which she has done, but hasn't really like super leaned into.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and rock seems like an option, especially because on the 1989 tour, she was doing like rock versions of her songs, like We Are Never Ever Getting Back Together, which is a classic.
Right.
So, I mean, I hope one day that we get that vibe.
Yeah.
I would lose it.
We will. We definitely will.
Yeah.
But anyway, we keep talking and referring to this incident and situation that happened. So, Sarah, can you please unpack Snakegate?
Okay. So, this was a huge contributing factor that like led to Reputation, the album. And it came from her fall from grace in the public eye thanks to Kanye West and Kim Kardashian. So let's go way back to the beginning where this all started. September 13th, 2009 at the VMAs. Kanye comes up on stage as Taylor is receiving the award for Best Female Video. And he states that Beyonce should have won. He says, "Yo, Taylor, I'm really happy for you and I'm going to let you finish. But Beyonce had one of the best videos of all time. One of the best videos of all time." Which, who let this man do that? Why did no one step in before he took the mic? I guess everyone was just so shocked by it. But now we know better.
Beyonce was flabbergasted and embarrassed. Yeah. Now we know better.
Right.
That's for sure.
President Obama famously called Kanye a jackass for this. He ain't wrong.
Amazing.
And then even Katy Perry, who is widely known as the subject of Taylor's diss track, Bad Blood, was not on board either. She said, "F you, Kanye. It's like you stepped on a kitten," she tweeted. Which is pretty accurate.
Her poor face. Her poor face when that happened. I remember actually watching that and being like, wow, that's sad. Let her have a moment. It's not okay. Beyonce, ever the class act, later that night, used her video of the year win to later allow Taylor back on stage and let her finish her speech that she was interrupted. Right. And that's how we know queens support queens. And that's how I really feel like Beyonce and Taylor became kindred spirits in a lot of ways. Right. So that's a win.
Also,
that's a positive spin.
Taylor, I think even maybe that night in an interview, she said she was so confused because people were booing and they were booing at Kanye, but she thought they were booing her. Which would have,
which is really sad.
It's so sad, being on that stage receiving this award, someone comes up to say that you didn't deserve it.
Yeah.
And then you think everyone's booing you for getting it. That's awful. And she was so young. Yeah. 2009, she was 19. She had not turned 20 yet in September. So, poor little Tay-Tay.
So the next couple of days are super chaotic. So you're going to see a lot of this is Kanye flip-flopping his feelings about Taylor. So 2 days later, after the VMAs, he's on Jay Leno and he said that, quote, "It was rude, period. I don't try to justify it because I was in the wrong. Dealing with the fact that I hurt someone or took anything away, from a talented artist or from anyone, because I just wanted to help people. My entire life, I've only wanted to do and give something that I felt was right and immediately knew in the situation it was wrong." Okay, so it's you kind of apologized.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But he actually put it in writing a year later. He's posted on Twitter that, quote, "I'm sorry, Taylor. We're both artists and the media managers are trying to get between us. She deserves the apology more than anyone."
Well, yeah.
And he also said he wrote a song for her.
Creepy. I don't understand this. She deserves the apology more than anyone. Obviously. Who else is he apologizing to? Oh my God. And then on September 12th, so a week after that, at the 2010 VMAs, which marks the 1-year anniversary of this whole thing, Taylor does a barefoot performance of her brand new song called Innocent, which is allegedly about Kanye. And we have a clip from that.
Mm-hmm. All right, here we go.
Who you are is not what you've been. You're still an innocent.
Yeah, so she says, who you are is not what you did. You're still an innocent. Which I don't think she would agree.
Which is
oh wait, we forgot to. What's the what's the line on Tortured Poets? Isn't it like you are what you did? What song is that?
Oh, right. That is,
Is it Smallest Man?
you are what you did.
Let me Google this.
Yeah, that's it. But you are what you did, and I'll forget you, but I'll never forgive. That's it.
Yeah, that is what
So,
it
like,
is.
that's on growth. That's on growth.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, she definitely was playing like rose-colored glasses on the situation. I think that comes with naivete, like giving him the benefit of the doubt, and later we learn he does not deserve it.
And she tried
anyway,
so many times to just like kind of,
yeah,
you know,
let it
turn
go.
the other cheek and let it go and be like, it's it's okay, we're cool, you know, and we'll see where that gets her.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
May 3rd, 2011, they have like at least publicly buried the hatchet. And at the Met costume gala, the two exchanged a studiedly casual down low high five, but it's clear that things are still strained.
So then 2 years pass by. On June 11th, 2013, Kanye all but takes his apology back, telling the New York Times that I don't have one regret.
Oh my God.
So, yeah.
Which, I mean,
But then like 2 years
well, I'll just say like
what happened in 2 years?
in light of like the Kanye that we know today, like none of this is surprising. Like this man is clearly unwell.
No.
And unhinged.
Yeah.
And somehow Taylor got involved in all of this, unfortunately. But like the back and forth is crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was 2013. By February 2015, Kanye and Taylor are at the Grammys being super pally backstage. And Kanye told Ryan Seacrest that she wants to go in the studio and we're definitely going to go in. I don't have any elitism about music. I don't discriminate, which is like,
that's
first
a
of all,
backhanded
really
compliment.
like, yeah, that's like not really nice.
No. Yeah, he's saying like, I'm not too cool for Taylor. We can get in the studio. So again, he's still putting her down.
He's still minimizing who she is. Yeah. And then a few days later, after the Grammys, the two are spotted getting dinner in New York at the Spotted Pig. So obviously, this is like them repairing their relationship in February 2015. And then by August, at the VMAs, 6 years after the interruption that started all of it, Taylor presents Kanye with the Video Vanguard Award, which is basically their first public confirmation that like they've mended their wounds and they're like moving on from the incident.
Also, I want to say, I don't like that. Like, has Kanye ever presented Taylor with an award? Because I feel like it should have been that. Rather than Taylor presenting him with an award, he should have presented her with an award somewhere to have this little thing. That still feels like putting it on Taylor to like mend this fence. And it's like she didn't start this.
Yeah, it's very bizarre.
I don't like that.
Yeah.
Especially in light of everything that's happened since then. Oh God.
Yeah,
So
which the next part gets crazy.
So in September of 2015,
buckle in.
Kanye announces his plan to run for president in 2020. And Taylor, like, jokingly volunteers to be his running mate. And this is wild because he actually did run for president in 2020. Or tried to. Did he? What happened with all that? I forget.
Yeah.
I've, like, blocked out so much of this stuff. There's too much that's happened.
He ran. He ran all right.
Well, I had no idea that Taylor made that joke about like running with him. Like that's crazy to me.
Yeah, there's this picture of her after like he had like delivered some sort of like present to her, and it was like, look what actually showed up, and it was like a bunch of like vote Kanye 2016. And then she did like the hashtag KT2016. Like,
Okay.
yeah. So like Pally, but like not serious, obviously. But he was serious.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. Now, here's when things get dark. So, in 2016, February 11th, to be precise,
Mm-hmm.
Kanye debuts a new track called Famous. And this is where everything unravels, okay?
Yeah.
The lyric includes, I feel like me and Taylor might still have sex. Why? I made that bitch famous. Okay. So Kanye claims that Taylor approved this lyric previous to its release. He said, quote, I called Taylor and had an hour-long convo with her about the line, and she thought it was funny and gave her blessings. Taylor's camp immediately denies this in a public statement, claiming that Kanye hadn't run the lyrics past Taylor, but had instead asked for her to promote the song, saying, quote, Kanye did not call for approval, but to ask Taylor to release his single Famous on her Twitter account. She declined and cautioned him about releasing the song with such a strong misogynistic message. Taylor was never made aware of the actual lyric, I made that bitch famous. And Taylor herself was silent. It was just like, obviously, Tree Payne and her management team handling that. But apparently, I love this. Apparently, her brother Austin, like, took his Yeezys and threw them in the trash, which I love so much. That's great. That's great brother energy for sure.
Yeah.
And other people on her squad also like publicly defended her, saying like this isn't okay, stuff like that.
Right.
But this is the start because it only gets messier. So this is on February 11th.
Oh shoot. Okay. Yeah. So what 4 days
next?
later, at the Grammys,
Yeah.
Taylor wins Album of the Year for 1989. And she swipes back at Kanye in what can only be described as like a perfect real life subtweet. She says, as the first woman to win Album of the Year at the Grammys twice, I want to say to all the young women out there are going to be people along the way who are going to try to undercut your success or take credit for your accomplishments or your fame. Swift said, naming absolutely no names. But if you just focus on the work and you don't let those people sidetrack you, someday when you get where you're going, you'll look around and you will know that it was you and the people who love you who put you there. And that will be the greatest feeling in the world. And that has since become a pretty famous little speech that she has given.
Yeah. It's been made into commercials, stuff like that. So pretty good. Okay. So after some months have passed, this was in February, on June 16th, 2016, Kim Kardashian West, wife of Kanye West, steps into the fray with a GQ interview that basically said that the lyrics, she's backtracking, right? She said she totally approved that. She wanted to all of a sudden act like she didn't. I swear, my husband gets so much shit for things when he was really doing proper protocol and even called to get it approved. She even went on to claim that there was a phone conversation which had been recorded on camera, quote, and then they sent an attorney's letter like, don't you dare do anything with that footage, asking us to destroy it.
Okay.
And you can tell this is so contrived. You can tell because like, what's next? This is obviously like setting up for the music video that's about to be released. So tell us about that.
Which I will say, like, that quote about Taylor's attorneys being like, don't you dare do anything with that footage and like destroy it. Not a good look for Taylor. But also, like, I understand because she's like, you did not have permission to record me on a phone call. Like, that's a violation of privacy. You know, so like, I get that. But like, in the context of everything, it looks bad. So, but then later in June, the music video for Famous is released. And the video begins with a shot of Kanye and Kim asleep in bed and pans out to reveal a naked Taylor Swift asleep on the other side of Kanye. And also snoozing nude in this bizarre fictional bed is Rihanna, Chris Brown, Donald Trump, Caitlyn Jenner, George W. Bush, Anna Wintour, Ruby Rose, Ray J, and Bill Cosby. But Taylor is positioned right next to Kanye, which becomes even creepier in light of the Taylor and I might still have sex lyric. Like, this is gross.
Disgusting. The fact that they were in the nude too, and using anyone's likeness without their permission is grounds to be sued. Like, that is against the law. I mean, if you think about it, it's like kind of like revenge porn-esque. Like, I have an issue with you. I'm going to display a lifelike waxwork version of you with your breasts and your like naked body.
Right.
That's not okay. That's not okay. No matter how famous you are, that is not acceptable. I'm shocked that she didn't sue, if I'm being honest. Like, it's crazy. But yeah, so then this was June 25th. So 3 days after the music video was released, Lena Dunham, who is one of like Taylor's friends, gal pals, BFF squad at the time, wrote a very angry Facebook post, claimed that the video was legitimization of rape culture. She said, quote, "Now I have to see the prone, unconscious, waxy bodies of famous women twisted like they've been drugged and chucked aside at a rager. I'm sure that Bill Cosby doll being in bed alongside Donald Trump is some kind of statement. I don't have a hip, cool reaction because seeing a woman I love, like Taylor Swift, a woman I admire like Rihanna or Anna, reduced to a pair of waxy breasts made by some special effects guy in the Valley, it makes me feel sad and unsafe and worried for the teenage girls who watch this and may not understand that grainy, roving camera is the stuff of snuff films." Mic drop.
Yeah.
That's a good friend right there. That is a good friend right there. Unfortunately, I do believe that this exacerbated what happens next, because this happened on June 28th. And then a couple weeks later, we have Snakegate officially, the Taylor Swift is canceled party. So, Sarah, tell us all about this tragic day for Taylor.
Okay. So Kanye's wife, Kim Kardashian, starts teasing that her Twitter followers should start following her on Snapchat also, where she later drops the biggest of bombshells. It is a secret recording of Taylor's phone call with Kanye, where she seemingly agrees to the use of her name, etc., on his song Famous. The words respect and friends are also like thrown around a lot in the conversation, like mainly by Taylor. She later tweets snakes, Kim does, and so the haters piggyback off of this, and they all start leaving snake emojis in Taylor's comments on like Instagram and stuff. Also, I think it's like Taylor Swift is over party or whatever was trending on Twitter at the time. And this is actually the impetus for Taylor turning comments off on her Instagram, which she has never turned back on, which I think is smart. Taylor does not need comments on her Instagram. Like, she talks about it in You Need to Calm Down, where it's like getting like death threats on her Instagram comments at like 7 a.m. Like, settle down. You need to calm down. Okay.
Yeah. Too much.
But the thing is, like, even at the time, I was like, this video that Kim released does not prove that Taylor is lying. Like, I don't understand how other people couldn't grasp this at the time, because Taylor the whole time has been like saying that she was never consulted about the fact that she's referred to as a bitch in the song, saying she never heard the lyric, "I made that bitch famous." And the recording that Kim released doesn't mention this either. Like, we don't hear Kanye tell Taylor about that lyric and have her say, "Oh yeah, that's fine. Go ahead and do that." Like, Taylor never denied that they had a phone call and that Kanye called her about the song. So, like, what Taylor has insisted all along was that she was never consulted about the fact that she's referred to as a bitch in the song, saying, like, she never heard the lyric, I made that bitch famous.
Mm-hmm.
And the recording that Kim released does not include that lyric either. So, like, again, I'm like, hello, guys. Taylor has been saying that she didn't know about that lyric and she's not okay with that lyric. So show me the video where that happens. Right.
Right.
So then
Yeah.
it's when Taylor posts this like famous tweet where the tweet says, that moment when Kanye West secretly records your phone call, then Kim posts it on the internet. And it has a screenshot from her Notes app. Classic.
Yeah.
So this is what the Notes app thing says. It says, where is the video of Kanye telling me he was going to call me that bitch in his song? It doesn't exist because it never happened. You don't get to control someone's emotional response to being called that bitch in front of the entire world. Of course, I wanted to like the song. I wanted to believe Kanye when he told me that I would love the song. I wanted us to have a friendly relationship. He promised to play the song for me, but he never did. While I wanted to be supportive of Kanye on the phone call, you cannot approve a song you have not heard. Being falsely painted as a liar when I was never given the full story or played any part of the song is character assassination. I would very much like to be excluded from this narrative, one that I have never asked to be a part of since 2009.
Iconic.
I would very much like to be excluded from this narrative. Okay?
Iconic. Mic drop.
Mm-hmm.
And then Taylor Swift disappears for a full year. We don't see her.
Right.
She's gone.
Yeah.
She goes.
This is the year, literally no one sees her for an entire year. Like, think about how much we have seen her in the last couple of years, right? No one sees her in public. And this is where I don't think this has been confirmed officially, but we're pretty sure that Taylor was transported in and out of her apartment during this year by being locked in a suitcase.
Oh yeah. Like there's bodyguards handling boxes in and out of her apartment that you're like, Taylor Swift is inside that box.
Yeah. She committed to the bit. She was like, guess what? You want me to be over?
Yeah.
You're not going to see me. Okay. You're not going to see me.
Yeah. I'm gone. I'm also moving to London. Okay.
Yeah. I'm just going to move to London with my lover and pretend that I'm happy. Yeah.
And this is sort of where we pick up some of the storyline for Miss Americana. If you haven't watched the documentary, please make sure you watch it on Netflix. But so a whole year goes by and nothing.
Mm-hmm.
No social media, no sightings. Like she is gone. Okay.
Right.
And then on August 21st, 2017, she starts posting a video of a snake on her Instagram, which is odd because she deleted everything or archived everything from her social media days before this. And that's kind of what we're expecting for Reputation, Taylor's version. I don't know if she'll do it.
I don't want everything to be archived unless she brings it all back afterwards.
You can bring it back. Yeah. It would take a lot. I mean, those social media interns are going to be working, honey. Like,
oh my God. Yeah. I would not want that job.
Yeah. But I feel like she could, and then she could bring them back. But like literally wiping the slate clean. She's disappeared off the internet. She's disappeared in real life. And then she just shows up with snakes. She's reclaiming the snakes, which is such a money move. And then flash forward 2 days later, she announces that she's making a new album that will be released in November. And fun fact, the font choices, very, very super similar to Kanye West's merch that he used for his St. Pablo tour, which is an interesting parallel. Lots of little like clues that we know what this is going to be about, right? So then we get Reputation Taylor's version that comes out in November of 2017.
Right. Well, and to end out the whole phone call stuff, it was not until 20 20 that the entire recorded phone call of Taylor talking to Kanye gets leaked. And we now know for a fact that the Kim's version was doctored. Okay, it was edited. So we now get the whole phone call, and everyone realizes that Taylor was telling the truth all along. Kanye had asked in the full video, he says, "What if I said I made you famous?" And Taylor like pushes back a little bit on this, but ultimately says, "Well, what am I going to do about it? It's kind of whatever at this point," which is not her, like she's hardly even okaying that. She's like,
Yeah.
okay, well, that's not true. But like, if that's your reality, then like, that's your reality, whatever. And she never consented to the lyric, "I made that bitch famous," which is what she took issue with from the beginning, and specifically being called a bitch. A bitch. He never mentioned calling her a bitch in the phone call, and he also never played her the song, any part of it. So yeah, she was telling the truth, and she got canceled.
So yeah,
and disappeared for a year.
And that is vindication for sure. But Taylor comes back stronger than a 90s trend, honey. Like, she disappeared, reclaimed the snake, and said, "I'm moving on. Here's how I've been feeling." Okay. And we're still getting songs about this situation. This is her Roman Empire.
Yeah.
Okay?
It is.
We are still getting Cassandra, "Thank You, Amy," amongst many other songs that I like. This is her Roman Empire. And
oh, yeah.
as it should be. It would be mine too.
Like, yeah.
How can you not when you were so wronged when you did nothing wrong?
So like my whole issue with this whole thing is like, why did Kim and Kanye have all this beef with Taylor when Kanye was the one who initially insulted Taylor in 2009 at the VMAs? Like, it's not like Taylor did something to him, whether on purpose or inadvertently or something. Like, the only thing that has happened is this man has been rude to Taylor, and she tried to forgive him, tried to move on, tried to mend fences, tried to be like, "Hey, you're an artist I really respect and admire. Can we please just put this behind us?" And then what does he do? He turns around and he stabs her in the back with this whole phone call stuff and the song. Like, for what? For what?
Nothing. I honestly feel like we know that Kanye is unwell, but the person that I still can't quite understand is Kim. Like, they have now been divorced. We now know that he is mentally unwell. I know that she has children with this man, but like, don't you feel like if Kim sincerely apologized to Taylor and described what was going on and how she felt personally responsible and like deeply apologized, like that would be incredible. Like, imagine if Kim did that, even if we didn't know that, but then like the Kardashians are at the Eras tour,
right?
Like, we would be gagged, first of all. But like, I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility. But the thing is, I don't think that Kim has any intention of doing that. And I don't understand why.
Right. Yeah, I feel like she's
don't
just
understand
being stubborn and like digging her heels in. Because I think it was within the last year or two, she was asked about the whole thing. And her response was something like, I've moved on. I'm over it. It's like, well, you don't get to be over it. You're the one who's supposed to apologize.
She was asked on Watch What Happens Live with Andy Cohen. So what's going on with you and Taylor? Have you mended the fences? And she said, "Oh yeah, over it. Like, kind of insinuating that like they had, but like she didn't want to like. It was very. It was very suspicious. That's what I'll say. I think she wanted to dodge the question, but I think she also wanted to look good. And the way to do that is basically say like, "Oh, I'm not going to do that. Like, we're good. they're not, obviously. So
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know, it's very weird. But like another thing we learned about besides the Snakegate of it all from this album is that Taylor had a very, very torrid couple affairs that happened during this time. The song Getaway Car sort of unpacks this like timeline a little bit. So timeline reminders. Before Reputation, Taylor was with Calvin Harris. Then she gets in a relationship with Tom Hiddleston. And then gets in a relationship with Joe Alwyn. Okay. In the song Getaway Car, we get a play-by-play, which we can now associate with the 2016 Met Gala because we've seen video footage where Taylor is seen drunk, dancing, having Taylor classics, like just drink in hand, having a ball.
Yeah.
Dancing with Tom Hiddleston, who they're in their own world. It was a vibe. But she's still dating Calvin Harris during this time. And apparently she also met Joe this night.
Yeah. Allegedly, she also met Joe that night. So, like, talk about a crazy night in the story of Taylor Swift. Also, Taylor has not attended the Met Gala since this night.
Yeah, this was messy.
I think she's like, I can't go back there.
That is cursed.
I can't go back. I mean, maybe it's like she was like with Joe for so long. Maybe she's like, I'm in a committed relationship. I cannot go to the Met Gala. Crazy things happen. I cannot cheat on my boyfriend.
She's getting like war flashbacks. Yeah. She was like, so okay, first of all, so Calvin and her break up probably because of the Met Gala. And Tom Hiddleston and her date for 3 months, and he was down, baby. I will never forget the pictures of him wearing I Heart TS as on a white t-shirt on her 4th of July party, like wrap up pictures that she always posts. And like they were spotted like paparazzi pictures of them being happy and cuddly, and like he was down.
Yeah.
He was down.
And this era was known as Hiddle Swift, which is one of her best relationship names.
Yeah. And Hiddleston is also British, and we know she has a thing for British dudes.
She loves them. Oh my God. Wow.
Yeah. And then somehow she starts, well, of course, the song Getaway Car, the whole theme is like, nothing good starts in a getaway car.
Tom Hiddleston was her getaway car from Calvin Harris.
Yeah.
So obviously that didn't last very long.
I got a boyfriend. He's older than us. He's in the club doing I don't know what. Yeah. So, yeah. Oh, and by the way, guys, we're not using any sound clips from Reputation because it's not owned by Taylor yet. So normally we have more sound clips. But anyway, if you have not seen the creation behind the scene videos of Getaway Car, it is probably my favorite Jack and Taylor moment.
Yes.
It's so good.
Oh,
it's so good.
So good.
You just see them, you see their brains and how in sync their brains are in the music creation process. And when they get the bridge, it's beautiful. It's like so good.
Which they did recreate that on the Eras tour. Like twice, I think?
Yeah.
Performing Getaway Car, which is fun.
Love it.
They know we love it.
Yeah. So we also do get a little bit of unpacking of the timeline, a little bit of what Taylor's been in relationships and stuff like that. But yeah, what are some of the main themes besides like Snakegate and like leaving Calvin Harris?
Well, like I talked about how for me it was like an expression of like feminine rage. And in her 2023 interview for Time magazine, she described the album's creation as a goth punk moment of female rage at being gaslit by an entire social structure.
Sounds about right.
Pretty intense.
Yeah.
And also like Taylor created this fictional version of herself for blank space, like what the media portrays her as. But this whole album is kind of like leaning into that a little bit. And, you know, because we're talking about blank space, this is a clip that we're like, what, like the vibe that she embodied for that song.
Yeah.
Go on like Starbucks lovers, they'll tell you I'm insane. 'Cause you know I love the players and you love the game.
What a bop.
So good.
But yeah, like, so she was like, oh, you think I'm a villain?
Mhm.
Oh, I'll be the villain. Like,
Look what you made me do.
the old Taylor can't come to the phone right now
Mhm.
because she's dead.
She's dead. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. She's leaning into her villain arc.
Yeah.
I also love like the song "This Is Why We Can't Have Nice Things" is so
Mm-hmm.
clearly about the Kanye thing and the whole phone call and the Snakegate.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like that section where she laughs, where she's like, what does she say there? She's talking about forgiving
Ha
him.
ha 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 ha. Ha ha. And then she's like,
But she says, I can't even say it with a straight face.
I can't even say it with a straight face. This is why we can't have nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
So good. She also, like, there's a lot of like very lusty songs in this album.
Mhm.
New relationship vibes. So like Delicate is obviously her explaining how being in a new relationship, you like don't want to rush things. You don't want to like make a wrong move because it's so new and it's so fresh. Dress is like this lustful, like only wear this dress so you could take it off. Like hot.
Yeah.
I want to be your end game.
Yeah.
So,
well, that's the funny thing about Rep is that on the surface, it's this like badass album and like,
yeah,
but it's actually full of love songs and like telling the story of her being genuinely happy in this new relationship and feeling like safe for the first time with him. And I will say, like, when I did my vows for my wedding with Josh, and I created like a little poem of Taylor lyrics, and I read through the lyrics of pretty much every Taylor song, I chose the most from Reputation for my wedding.
See, everyone thinks that Lover is like the sweetie pie lover girl era. Reputation is more romantic. Like it is like, I'm sorry, like Lover, if you actually listen to it, is really unpacking a lot of anxieties in a relationship. Not really like.
Whereas like Reputation like is the lavender haze part of the relationship.
Yeah. Truly. Yeah, that's a good comparison. Yeah.
Right?
Sorry, Joe. Also, like, just Taylor did an interview where she said one thing that she loved about the rollout of this album was that she loved this idea of, quote unquote, there will be no explanation, just reputation. So like she's not going to
any interviews. She didn't do press for it.
No.
Yeah.
She just dropped it and said, here it is. Here's the music. Here's the music videos. Unpack it. I'm going to do a tour, but I'm not going to be doing the radios, interviews. I'm not going to TV.
I'm not talking to y'all bitches. Okay? Here's my music.
You lost.
Go listen to
your
it.
privileges.
Yeah. You guys are
now
kicked
go
out
in
of
the
lunch
corner
table.
and think about what you did.
Yeah,
okay?
Seriously. Yeah.
So like, we love that.
Which makes sense too, because she's like, why would I go and give you guys more ammunition to twist my words? Like, there will be no explanation, just reputation. Here's my music. Make of it what you will. I will not explain it any further.
Nope.
Goodbye.
And she didn't. Love that. We also picked up that this is her album with probably the most alcohol and drinking references. So she was definitely in a weird place. I mean, she the first time she really mentions like alcohol is in 1989 in Clean when she says this.
You're still all over me like a wine-stained dress I can't wear anymore.
That was the first time we were like, wine?
Yeah, that was the first time she really mentioned alcohol in an album, and it was in one song on 1989. Flash forward to
Mm-hmm.
Reputation, her next album, she mentions alcohol in 6 different songs. Okay.
Like specifically alcohol.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
let's go song by song. Song 1,
Ready for it.
Ready for it.
It says Island Breeze and Lights Down Low, No One Has to Know. Island Breeze is a
Yep.
fruity vodka cocktail.
Yep.
And then in Gorgeous, she says Whiskey on Ice, Sunset and Vine, which we love our whiskey girl. That's another reason you and I
Yeah.
love Tay Tay, because
Yeah.
she is a whiskey gal like you and me.
Yeah.
And especially like when we were like in our 20s, like that's not normal.
No. No.
Yeah.
Like, we know that if we were at a bar with Taylor, we'd be drinking like old fashions and Manhattans.
Mm-hmm.
Like at a football game, I'd follow suit and have her vodka crayons because like
Mhm.
that's what you don't ask for an old fashioned at a football game.
I
But our
might.
girl loves her whiskey.
Yeah. And
Like,
our next example is Getaway Car, where she says, I knew it
Yep.
the first old fashioned we were cursed.
yep,
She loves it. Then in King of My Heart, she says, up on the roof with a schoolgirl crush, drinking beer out of plastic cups. One of like the best little parts of that song, honestly.
mm-hmm,
The schoolgirl crush, drinking beer out of plastic cups.
It's great illustration too.
Yeah.
Dress, spilling wine in the bathtub. I'm spilling wine in the bathtub. You kiss my face and we're both drunk. Like, okay.
Talk about like Polaroids just like shot into your
Yeah.
brain.
Yep.
That's one of those. I don't
Yep.
know why this is a Polaroid.
Well, that's how you hold it.
Oh, yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. 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 This is why we can't have nice things. Jump into the pool from the balcony. Everybody swimming in in a champagne sea. Very, very Gatsby.
Yeah.
And then, okay. This line of Fortnite
Mm-hmm.
has riddled me since I've heard it. So listen to this and let's talk about it.
I was a functioning alcoholic till nobody noticed my new aesthetic.
Soon they'll know. Okay, so
Wait, is that what he
I-
says back there?
yeah. But soon they'll know. Okay.
Ooh, okay.
So I was a functioning alcoholic till nobody noticed my new aesthetic.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So in my mind, I'm thinking, when did Taylor have a big aesthetic change? Maybe when she went from 1989 to Reputation, and the time in between, I was a functioning alcoholic. We know that she has been drinking a lot during this time period. Okay. She
Yeah.
has so many songs referencing to drinks, right?
Mm.
And we also know that Fortnite, the subject of that song, spoiler alert, is Maddie Healy. When was Maddie Healy in the whole mix of this? Like Karma time period / Lost album time period.
Yeah.
So this is her like calling back to that, like, I was a functioning alcoholic until
yeah.
like nobody noticed my new aesthetic. So
Right.
that's how I read it.
Well, but I see Fortnite as her describing herself like being with Joe, but having like a, I mean, that song is very fictionalized. But I see it as like her being with Joe,
Yeah.
but like had a fling with Maddie Healy, like the neighbor guy who's also married. Kind of like guilty as sin, the things we never did. But like this is like if they did do it,
Yeah.
kind of a thing. Also, my boredom's bone deep. Like that Fortnite is like about like an alcoholic housewife, you know, who's like extremely depressed, locked up at home,
And lonely.
drinking. So yeah, I feel like the whole Joe era was alcoholism.
Doesn't she also reference to in Dear Reader something about that? Hold on, I'll look at the
drinking?
lyrics real quick. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, there you go. So I wander through these nights. I prefer hiding in plain sight. My fourth drink in my hand. These desperate prayers of a cursed man. Like, fourth drink in my hand.
Yeah.
Um,
Fourth drink would
So-
have me on the floor. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Same. So,
yeah. And then we know also that
my God.
she apparently like cut out drinking while she was training for the Eras tour.
mhm.
So she's I mean, we've seen her drink since the Eras tour has begun.
Oh, yeah.
But she definitely like seems, since the Eras tour has happened, she seems the healthiest she has ever been.
Definitely.
So I think Taylor, yeah, she's acknowledging that she had a drinking problem. And I hope
Little bit.
she's doing better with it. I think she is.
I think, yeah. Yeah. Reputation tour. A tour we all wish we could experience because, man. Okay.
What a-
So
yeah.
some logistics. The opening acts were Camila Cabello and Charlie XCX, which beckons me to ask, why does Charlie seem to have such a weird situation with Taylor?
Mhm.
She opened for her
Yeah.
not that long ago. And like, don't forget that like she had an image of a friendship bracelet for Karma's a Knife. Is that right? Or no,
or
it was Sympathy.
It was for an interview.
Yeah. Yeah. Sympathy is a Knife is the song that most people think is about Taylor.
Right.
But it's so weird to me. It's very strange. I don't get it.
Well, there was a quote circulating this summer with like all the Charlie stuff happening. Where like in an interview talking about the Rep tour, she said how like it was kind of weird for her because it was like performing for a bunch of 5-year-olds. And so I looked that up when I was doing the notes for this. And that was like from back closer to the time of the Rep tour. But she was like attacked for saying that at the time because the quote kind of made it sound like she was kind of like, yeah, it was kind of weird. I'm like kind of calling Taylor's fan base like a bunch of children. But at the time, she actually on social media clarified, because of course these quotes are always taken like out of context and edited and stuff.
Right.
And she said that like she was just comparing it to like before that tour, she was used to performing in like nightclubs. So it was just like a very different audience for her to perform for an audience of all ages. So I think for her, it felt like, oh my gosh, like I have all these children in the audience. Like I'm not used to that. And she reiterated like how she was extremely grateful to Taylor, like for opening for her. And it was like such an incredible tour to be a part of and stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like I kind of feel like everything with Charlie this summer was more like even the Sympathy is a Knife song, like I don't take beef with that. Like I think what she's singing about makes sense.
Makes sense. Yeah.
And obviously like to compare yourself to Taylor Swift right now, like you're gonna feel small.
Right.
Like no matter how successful you are, you're gonna feel small. And I feel like and on top of that, for Taylor to be the like friendly, supportive person that we know her to be. So if you're Charlie, like backstage at the 1975 with your boyfriend, fiance, and Taylor's dating Maddie Healy, and she's there like kind of gal palling with you, but like in your mind, you're like, I can never be what she is. Like I just feel insecure around her. Like I don't take any issue with that song, but I feel like Charlie, the way she handled all that stuff this summer, like I'm kind of reading it like similar to the Olivia Rodrigo stuff where it's like, okay, let me kind of like distance myself from Taylor. But also I think she was leaning into the brat of it all. And like,
that's true.
Like it's better
and
for
we already
her
know
if people think that like she kind of has beef. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And we already know that the song Girl is So Confusing also touches on insecurities as a girl when you're comparing yourself to others. And that was about Lorde, which was featuring Lorde in the remix.
Remix, yeah.
But like it is interesting to me because I don't know. I kind of wish that there was a little bit more of just like camaraderie. But
Mhm.
like, I also agree. I think she was definitely leaning into the brat of it all. So
Mhm.
yeah. Anyway, back to the Rep tour. Announced the first 27 dates in the US, and added 40 in the US, adding 12 international performances. So this was a pretty big tour overall.
Mhm.
53 shows, 7 countries, but the Eras tour had 149 shows across 5 continents. So to give you some
Yeah.
comparison, like it's a
Mhm.
third of the size of what the Eras tour was.
Yeah.
And at the time, it was the highest grossing US and North American tour.
Mhm.
It made 345.7 million versus 2.077 billion that the Eras tour made.
Yeah.
But that is crazy.
The Eras tour
That's
was the
insane.
first tour to hit 1 billion and 2 billion. Like, that's how insane the Eras tour was. That even at
Yeah.
1 billion, it was the highest grossing tour of all time. And she hit 2 billion. Like, that's insane.
And at the time, Rep was the highest grossing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Although
That's
the thing we
nuts.
don't account for here, though, is inflation. Okay? So,
That's true.
True. It was like
Very true.
8 or so years ago, and like stuff has gone up a lot in that time. But even still,
That's true.
remember the Beyonce's Reformation tour was going on at the same time as the first leg of the Eras tour. So,
Yeah, Renaissance.
Compared to all of its
Yeah.
contemporaries and stuff, obviously the Eras tour is just on a whole other level compared to everything. But the Rep tour
Definitely.
did have the surprise song set, which I don't know
Yep.
if that was the first tour to have that or not.
I don't either.
Yeah. But it was like super gothy, high production. There was Karen the Snake, who was a centerpiece of it. But I feel like the tour is really what brought this album to life, and like a huge reason why this album gained popularity as time went on, because the tour was incredible. And the fact like it came to Netflix, so people watched it on there a lot. And I feel like it has always been a classic touch point for new Swifties, where everyone's like once you start getting into Taylor, and especially if you start getting into the Reputation tracks, everyone's like, you have to watch the Reputation Stadium tour. Like,
Oh,
you
yeah.
don't fully
Of
get
course.
this album until you watch the tour and see her perform
Yeah.
these songs, because it is so good. I love it.
Yeah, it is. And like, as someone who watched the Reputation Stadium tour a lot on Netflix or whatever, imagine it was hard to imagine what the Eras tour set of Reputation was going to be like, because there's so many like classic like choreography moves that you're like, oh, she's going to do this, she's going to do that, like she's going to do this.
Yeah.
It's like, oh no, they changed the choreography. But now I like only think of the Eras tour version of, look what you made me do and whatever. So
yeah, although I'm
also,
so
can
mad.
we just talk about
I'm so mad that they
the
did
whiplash?
not include I Did Something Bad on the Eras tour.
I know.
Because that was like the best song on the Rep Stadium tour.
Yeah.
What were you saying about Whiplash?
Just like, we need to take a second to remember the whiplash of Rep's era on the Eras tour, where for us, it went from Evermore, like literally like Tolerate It, to click, 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 click.
Oh my
click.
gosh.
And we're all losing our minds because I have whiplash. I have emotional whiplash. Like, I'm not ready. I'm not ready for it. Okay. Like, what? It's so iconic.
Oh, makes me miss the Eras tour.
Yeah. I know.
Yeah.
Me too. So what's your favorite Rep song?
Well, I was just going to say,
go ahead.
I hope that like us talking about this album so much makes it even more obvious why, like, what was it? The Miami show that it was in the rain for the Rep set, where it was just like pouring during Look What You Made Me Do and stuff, that like that is how that set and that album should always be performed, you know?
Always. Always. I need that version of that show. Yes.
Yeah.
Full witch
Anyway,
mode.
our favorite songs from Rep. It's hard to
Yeah.
choose.
So for me,
Uh-huh.
I know, honestly, this was hard. For me,
Mhm.
is Don't Blame Me, Take Me to Church,
Take us all to church,
Okay.
please.
and Getaway Car. The bop.
Mhm.
The absolute bop of of this whole album is Getaway Car. The
Yeah.
bridge hits like nothing else.
Mhm.
So if I had to say like my favorite like top two, I'd say those, but it's so hard to pick because like
It is.
I'm looking at yours and I'm like, yeah, I like that too. So
Yeah, I think technically my favorite is probably Getaway Car. But also I Did Something Bad.
yeah.
But like
so
Don't
good.
Blame Me is right up there for me as well. Like
Yep.
there's a lot.
Also, Ready for It. Just like remembering the classic click of her shoes on the way down from the Eras tour. I'm like, wow, what a song.
Yeah,
What a song.
I know.
So I'm giving this album a 9.3 out of 10. And I just think, okay, so when I gave it 9.3, I was like, it's a 9 out of 10. No, it should be a little bit higher because
Mhm.
to understand Taylor is to understand Reputation. Like,
Mhm.
you can unpack Fearless and Red, Speak
Mhm.
Now, 1989, and get a sense of who Taylor is.
Mhm.
But when we need to like truly understand who Taylor is and her story and her place in like pop culture, you
Yeah.
have to include Reputation in the timeline. Like it has to be included.
Mhm.
So for that reason alone, it's going to earn some extra points. It's also so fun and was experimental.
Yeah.
1989 was definitely a shift into pop music, but like this is leaning into a different territory
Mhm.
that was fun and new, and I
Yeah.
love it. So
I do
9.3
also
for me.
think like what you're saying about it being critical to her story. I think it's also why like if you understand this era, the Reputation era and this album, I think it makes every album after it hit harder, like especially like Folklore, Evermore, Tortured Poets, like Mad Woman. Like if
Oh,
you heard Mad Woman the first time without really knowing all of this, like it doesn't hit the same way,
yeah.
you know?
Who's Afraid of Little Old Me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the Reputation, Snakegate, Taylor's Roman Empire of this whole thing is baked into like everything that has come after it. Like we mentioned, like Cassandra
Oh, yeah.
and what was the other
Thank
song?
You,
we mentioned?
Amy.
Thank You, Amy. Yeah, obviously. But
Yeah.
listen, I do not disagree with your 9.3, but that's more of a Laura rating. So I'm giving it a 9 out of 10. Which for me is basically the same.
Fair.
I like thought about it.
Yeah.
I was like, do I give it like a 9.2 or something? But I think just a solid 9 is where I'm going to land for now. But I think Reputation Taylor's version, ooh, that
man.
could easily creep up to a 9.5.
Like I said, probably the most anticipated vault songs, in my opinion. Like, I want to know. I want to know everything. So,
yeah, I just
because
don't
we know she was writing for that year.
Oh yeah, she probably has so many vault tracks.
Just
but
saying.
my only request is that please don't let the vault tracks sound like they're midnight/1989 vault tracks. Like I need them to sound like Reputation.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
I'm excited to see who the producers are. Like I know Jack's involved, but I wonder if she'll bring on any other new producers for Reputation Taylor's version.
Only time will tell.
Yeah. So anyway, this album as a recipe.
As a recipe? Hello.
Yeah.
All right.
What did you say?
I said this is a whiskey cocktail, obviously.
Mhm.
Got to be a whiskey cocktail. Something strong,
Mhm.
like a Manhattan, but like with a lot of extra cherry,
Okay.
like cherry syrup, because this album is like a shot of whiskey, but it's also really sweet. So that's
Yeah.
what I chose.
That's true. Well, I definitely have a similar answer, but slightly different, which I said it's a Long Island iced tea because, I mean, she literally mentions a cocktail of alcohols in the album. What do we have? We've got
Yeah.
an Island Breeze, whiskey, old fashioned, beer out of
Beer.
plastic cups, wine, champagne. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's like all the alcohols mixed together. But like
Yep.
you said, it's also very sweet. And also, this is an album you play when you want to get turnt. And Long Island iced teas are
Yeah.
known for getting you Swiftie. So
Oh, yeah.
I feel like
For
it
sure.
fits, you know?
It's a college drink.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I
Man.
think we covered it.
Rep TV, where are you? We need you.
There's so much to say about this album. I'm sure we forgot some little tidbits that
Oh, yeah.
people will let us know. But
Yeah, in the comments, please, please, please tell us other rep things you want us to talk about, or if we forgot something that's like majorly important, because we know that we did. Tell us.
yeah,
Okay.
there's just so much to say.
Yeah, there
Right?
is.
Thanks for
All right.
going on this journey with us once again. And if you'd like to support the pod, please give us a follow at Blank Plate Pod on TikTok and Instagram, and check us out on YouTube.
And you can check out our website at blankplatepodcast.com. And you can send us an email at blankplatepod@gmail.com and leave us a voicemail at 717-382-8313. And until then,
until next time, we had the time of our lives with you.
and you know, it's time to go.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to go fold up into our little suitcases and disappear.
There will be no explanation.
Just
Just
reputation. Bye.
Bye.